What's up? I think I got this thing working. First time doing this live thing. I need to figure out how I can see the chat. See if anyone's... Let's see. There we go. We got one there. What's up, Chili Millie? Or am I saying that right? What's up? Yeah, so I gotta edit some drums. So I figured, like, let's hang out, ask some questions, drink some coffee. So I'm gonna be wrapping up this Triton project next week, starting on Monday. So I'm trying to get these drum tracks all ready for the final mix down. I'll turn this down now. Let me just solo the drums here. There we go. What's up, Guy? How's it going? I'm using my phone as my camera because I don't have a web camera. And so I don't know how to do the chat without it popping up on the main screen, which means y'all see that. But maybe I'll do some more research, try to figure out how to do this the right way. In the meantime, yeah, I'm just editing some drums here. So the main thing I do first is, these are the tom tracks here. I go through and clean out anything that's not a tom hit, because this is what the toms sound like when they're wide open. Actually, let me turn these gates off. I didn't realize how loud this mouse is until I am hearing it through a microphone. Okay, turn these gates off. So yeah, all that's coming through the tom mics whenever they're not even being played, so it kind of makes it real muddy. So basically when they're not being hit, and get rid of it. I try to do it pretty quick. I'll go back and adjust the fades later, even in the mix, if I feel like they're getting cut off too quick. Okay, now let's hear that in context. All right, let me do just drums here. Yeah, much cleaner. Hey, what's up, Jubal? Hey man, haven't heard from you in a long time. Awesome. How you doing? Guy, are these drum tracks that you played on or just mixing? Both. I played drums, tracked them here at EKG Studios, and had my good friend Morgan, who helps me out assisting and engineering. He manned the helm while I beat the skins in there, and yeah, so we're final mixing. I actually did the keys on this project as well, and then Larry Dean from Triton doing all the guitars and vocals. And one of the songs he's having a guest, a couple guests. I think I'm gonna sing a little bit. Actually, John Elefante is gonna do a guest spot. I think he's already mentioned that. I hope I just didn't spoil something there, but yeah, I'm gonna keep at it here. I'll keep checking the chat periodically because I can't get it to stay up on my screen while I'm editing. How's the volume on all this? Is it too loud? Not loud enough? I'm pretty much guessing on all this. I've never done this, like I said. So that's a snare hit. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Chris. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the drummer perspective. You know, I hear some engineers that aren't, but honestly, I feel like when you're not, it's usually that the engineer's not a drummer. The only exception has been like when I mixed Morse Fest 2017 on anything live, also on, I think, Live from Tilburg, Neil Morse Band. That's a little different because you're watching a Blu-ray or something. It would be weird to see like a shot from the front and you know, he's doing a fill going that way and you're hearing it go the other way. So that's the only time I don't do, or that's the only time I do audience perspective. Well, for me, because being a drummer, but also like if you're air drumming along and, you know, unless you're a left-handed drummer, I guess, but it just makes sense to me. And that's how I like to do it. Let's check that one out. Yeah, you can kind of see how the tracks are in right here. You can kind of hear how ringy. I'll get rid of that and play the same part. So much cleaner. And I mean, you can use gates, and I had gates on it, just kind of like a temporary thing until until I got around to actually cleaning these up. But for me, I don't know. I never trust a gate. There's some pretty good gates out there, but this way I know every tom hit that I want to come through is going to come through. And sometimes, you know, you play a little softer, you play a little harder, you'd have to go automate the gates, and at that point it's like you might as well just clean it up manually. Plus it gives me a lot more control even over what happens after the tom hit. For instance, sometimes there'll be a cymbal hit or a snare hit, like right here, and I can adjust the fade to kind of fade out a little faster to get out of the way of that snare that's coming in. Usually it's a cymbal. Snares don't bother me as much as the cymbal bleed, but yeah, you can hear all that ringing coming back, which is why we do this. Hello England. Hey, what's up? Yeah, this is cool, man. I've always thought about doing this, but finally today I was like, well, you know, I got to edit and maybe I can figure out how to roughly get this up live. So yeah, hopefully it's working. I don't really have a way to check it. Like I said, I'm using my phone as the camera. So hopefully it's working. Jubal, this is Triton, and the album is Blood of Kings. We're doing the final mix next week, and I said it a little bit earlier, but I played drums and keys on it. We tracked it here. I'm also producing this project. Larry Dean is the singer and guitar player, and yeah, I'll play a little bit. This is still a little rough mixes dialed in with all this. Like I said, we're going to be mixing starting Monday, but yep, here we go. Germany, hey, what's up? Any new NMB news? Not at the moment. We are planning to write and record, but then this whole COVID thing happened, and basically we had to move our session we had pretty tentatively scheduled for I think it was May. So yeah, I don't know at this point when we'll be getting together. I guess we're gonna have to wait this thing out just a little bit. I don't know, but hopefully sooner than later. Hello from Michigan. Hey, how's it going? Do you record the drums dry, then add effects in the mix? Yes. Well, yes and no. I'm using a... I can't really move my camera because it's kind of stationary, but maybe I'll do another video where I kind of walk through what I'm doing here. I kind of do a hybrid setup at this point, at least for mixing, where I have a 40-channel analog console that I'm kind of summing through, but I also use... 16 channels on the right as just extra mic pre's into my interface, and I use the Apollo X16 and the Apollo 8P, which allows me to do a lot of processing on the way in. Not really effects, but like emulations of mic pre's and that's compression, that sort of thing. I don't really do any effects. I don't track any effects. I do have like some snare reverb and stuff that just go to the headphones while I am recording. But as far as effects, I wait to add that in the mix. And I don't really use a ton of effects on drums, just maybe some snare verb, maybe a little bit of like a fake room verb just to make the room feel a little bit bigger. But a lot of that I do with my room mics, and I'll compress the room mics pretty heavily to make the room feel a little bit bigger than it already is. My drum room, it's not very wide, but it's very long. I don't know exactly how long, but I put 2 room mics at the very, very back of the room, and I actually face them the other way to kind of help with some of the harsh cymbals. And then I compress those pretty heavily, and it can make that room feel at least double the size, I think. Let's check that out. Another cool thing is the, I can't remember the shortcut. Command U, strip silence, is something that you can set a threshold of the, I lost connection of my mouse. You can set a threshold of the transient, like kind of like a detector, and then how long of a clip you want to keep. You can put a little pad at the very beginning and the end. Let's try this. And what it's going to do is kind of find where those tom hits are, and then you can kind of automatically have it edit it. Sometimes it's kind of hard depending on how hard you're hitting, but it can be close, and then you kind of trim it up that way. The cool thing is once you have a pretty good setting on that, it gets pretty close. Sometimes you'll get these that aren't actually, that's not really a hit. I don't think that is either. But sometimes I'll use that to get a kind of a rough chop of the hits, and then I'll come in and fine tune these. Check that. Sometimes I'm not sure. I don't know if that's a hit at the very beginning. So I will just solo that. Solo that tom 2. Let's hear 1, 2. I think maybe it's a light hit, so I'm going to leave that. Like I said, I can always adjust it later in the mix. Let's check that out from here. Oops. There we go. Let's check the chat out here. Your song on the Proc From Home concert was superb. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was fun. I've been looking for a reason besides one track on my orchestral EP, if you haven't checked that out, A New Day, to record my, I'm not sure if you can see it in the shot, my upright cabinet grand piano, and that was a fun reason to do that. So thank you very much. Does MP mix his drum sound by his own, or did you on the NMB Blu-ray? No, Mike doesn't do any mixing that I know of. He, I mixed it depends on what Blu-ray. The latest Blu-ray, Rich Mauser mixed from our Live in Brno I mix the live in Tilburg from the I'm spacing on our own album name, Similitude of a Dream from that tour, and also did Morse Fest 2017. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not. Jubal, by the way, thanks a lot for doing this. Maybe you could make it a regular thing. Yeah. Excellent idea. Yeah, I mean, when this whole COVID thing started, I mean, a lot of people have started doing this. I'm definitely not, the first one to do this. But if anything, I'm late because I didn't act on it as quick as when I thought about it. But it's kind of a pretty heavy learning curve to, or maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. But as far as like getting set up for streaming and getting a camera, all the webcams were sold out online because I guess everybody was doing Zoom calls and whatever. And then figuring out how to get the sound out of my interface into the program and then streaming it to YouTube, and you can do a restream to multiple platforms. And so it kind of took me a little while just to get my head wrapped around what software I need and how to do it and all that. But apparently it's working, I guess. How's the connection been as far as the stream? Because that was my other concern, because my studio here is actually kind of in the country, and they don't actually have like a great internet service provider. We're actually getting fiber pretty soon, which is going to be cool. But I actually I'm using a Netgear like hotspot that basically converts an LTE signal into Wi-Fi, and I didn't know if that was going to be enough to actually do a live stream, but I guess it's working unless anyone is saying otherwise. Neil Watson, how's it going, Neil? He says, hey Eric, I think Lost is a superb track. Any prospect of you playing it live at some point, and if so, which instrument would you choose? That's a good question. Stream is solid here in UK. Awesome, great. So I guess it's a strong enough internet signal or whatever. As far as playing Lost, I love to play that song. When I played my solo music on Cruise to the Edge, it crossed my mind. The main problem being, it's a fairly long song. I don't remember at this point. I think it's under 30, but it's pretty close. The problem is that would eat up a pretty good portion of my set, and also it's a big task to learn for the guys to only play a couple times. Although we did play Escape, but that's a little bit shorter. Yeah, I don't know. It crossed my mind, but at that point, I had to just pick other songs to make it to feature more of the newer album and all that. As far as what I would play, I don't know. That would be hard. And it would also be hard to do with that lineup I did because I don't know. I mean, if I wanted to play some keys, then we wouldn't have a guitar player. So, but obviously Diego can cover any and all of it with no problem. But there are some fun keys parts to play in that. So I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Oh, it's been really nice. Great quality. Awesome. What programs? For streaming, I'm using Streamlabs OBS. I don't have Restream, but I did see something in OBS that said you could do a multi-stream. I don't know if that would work. Maybe I could stream it to my Facebook page and any other. I don't have a Twitch or anything like that. Maybe I should get that set up. Yeah, I'm pretty new to all this, like I said, but let me get a drink here. A few people I've watched and follow have a Discord channel. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if that'd be something cool to get where we could kind of have a community ongoing chat. But yeah, this is something I'd like to keep doing. I mean, I do this all the time anyway, so why not have y'all hang out, ask some questions, and let's get back to it here. Yeah, here's another good example of how much they ring. Now let me especially that low tom 3, because it's not even being hit there. Oops, I keep forgetting to solo the drums. On something like this, I kind of want those kicks to be really heard. So I'll actually chop out, even though it's a pretty quick fill, I'll fade out these first hits. Make sure those kicks come through. I always equate this this portion of the process, I equate it to data entry. This is the data entry of a musician's life, or an engineer or producer's life, whatever. It's kind of monotonous and repetitive, and sometimes though it's kind of a calming thing about it. I don't know. Sometimes. Sometimes I don't like doing it at all, but it's definitely worth it. It makes a big difference. But I find, and a lot of people, engineers will say this, it's a good thing to separate like the editing part from the creative mixing part. So I try to have all this done before I'm actually mixing, for a couple of reasons. One being, it's an attended mix session, so Larry will be here, and it's not, you know, I mean, you guys are watching, but it's not the most fun thing to watch. But luckily, we're hanging out and, you know, chatting and stuff. But also, it can slow you down in the creative process and make you not feel creative. So I try to knock it out before doing the mixing stuff. Let's check that out. Same thing with these. Clear it up for those kicks. We don't want them to get in the way. Also, I never mix or edit or anything with headphones, so this is weird. I actually hate these headphones. They're some old Sonys, and I don't know, they just sound like crap. If I'm being honest. I went to a Guitar Center the other day, and I remember why I don't go to Guitar Center. The problem being, I needed a TRS snake for my studio, but also I was gonna listen to a couple different sets of headphones and maybe pick a good set, because I knew I was gonna at some point be doing this, and you can't really have your sound coming out of your mains, or it would come through the microphone and be weird and feedback and all that junk. So, but I went and had to stand in line for a long time and wear a mask, which is fine. But I got cut in line by an old lady, so that was nice. And then they couldn't find what I wanted and wasted my time for 30 minutes. So. But I don't really want to buy a set of headphones without having heard what they sound like first. So I don't know. I'll just have to wait until things open up again. Let's check this one out, and then I'll check the chat. Let's fade that out a little quicker. Maybe not so quick. you kind of, sometimes if you get out of the way of that cymbal too fast, it sounds unnatural. So you got to kind of just mess with the tail of these. That's a little better. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Restream is free. Oh, that's good. A centralized chat would be nice for sure. I don't know. Oh, is the chat? The chat is on the screen. Great. Yeah, I added a chat box thing. I didn't know if that was gonna work, so I'm glad that is working. Yeah, thanks, Jubal. I'll check all that stuff out. I don't mind paying a small monthly fee if it's gonna make it easier and get it on more platforms and streamline the chat. That would be good. Do you use a click track when playing live with NMB? Love from Sweden. Hello from Sweden. Or hello to Sweden. We do not use a click. Yeah, we do old school. Old school with that band with pretty much every aspect, even down to the recording and writing, which is great. But yeah, we don't use a click. I mean, to me, there's pros and cons to click. I enjoy being on a click for the most part. Like when I played on Cruise to the Edge, all my material, I used a click track and a guide track. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with that, but one of the pros, I would say, to using a click track is the account track, which is, I mean, it was my own voice, but you can find, basically it's someone saying 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can say chorus 2, 3, 4. So if for any reason you maybe got lost, it's kind of a verbal cue letting you know where you're at. Yeah, I mean, it can keep everything real tight. I mean, the downside would be you can't have any tempos. I mean, if you want the tempo to pull back at any moment or go forward or whatever, you'd have to program that into the click track, which is not impossible, but it definitely makes it less, there's a little bit less freedom, but you have a lot more consistency maybe, or can keep things real tight. And then if you had any sort of like, another pro would be, I mean, there's mixed feelings on these things, but backing tracks, as far as like, I think a good use of backing track would be like percussion, maybe that sort of stuff. In our band, you don't really need, there's not really a need for like any keys backing tracks, because, you know, between Bill and Neil, they can cover it all with ease. So yeah, but I think maybe being able to throw in a tambourine or a shaker in the background just to kind of help the vibe of the song would be cool. But, you know, sometimes you just do without, and no one really notices. Let's check this out. All right, let's adjust that a little more. Yeah, definitely less spontaneity. Yeah, I don't know. It's really down to the person and what they feel is the best for their group or whatever. Lots of pros and cons. You know, I mean, there's always the option of, you could have certain songs where you use a click and some where you don't. I mean, that could be an option. I've never done that, but I don't mind both. The other hard part about that would be in our band is that Neil is he's still on wedges. He doesn't do in-ears. He's not a fan, which is fine, and I get it. But everyone else at this point is on ears. Excuse me. And so that poses a problem. Although it would be possible for all of us to use the click, but I don't know, it'd be kind of weird to have everyone but one person on the click, and you know, you'd still have to count off the song if the other person's not on the click because they wouldn't be able to hear when the song's starting and all that. So I don't know. Let's see what that is. Just snare. All right. So while I got people here in the chat, what's some other things you guys would be interested in seeing or hearing about, maybe in future videos even, as far as recording, mixing, writing? Yeah, I kind of been racking my brain on what sort of things I could do. So what better way than have people actually say what they are interested in? So I'd be curious to see what you guys are interested in seeing or knowing more about or any of that. So feel free to drop a comment. Let's clean that up. Again, I don't know if it depends on what you're watching on a phone or anything like that, but if you can hear the difference. I'll play this fill and then there's going to be empty space here where the toms are not in, and then you'll hear them wide open and you'll hear the difference of what this actually does for your track. Just a constant annoying ringing sound. So kind of a funny thing is I didn't really do it on this project, but there's been times when I've been recording some drum stuff and I'll catch myself, if I know I'm going to be the one doing the drum editing, I'll catch myself playing less busy. I'll hit the toms less because I know that's going to be less work for me down the road. If you're not hitting the toms, I mean, you'll still have to edit it, but you'll just, one big swoop like this. This is actually, that's a good example here, because I didn't hit any toms right here. Bye-bye. Yeah, so that's kind of funny. Which might be good, Sometimes, a lot of the time, less busy can be better. It depends on the music, but all right, let's check the chat again. Is the new Neil album with the normal NMB? Will you all be at Morsefest? Love from Germany. No, it's not. This is a Neil solo album, if that's what you're talking about. I assume that's what you're talking about. I mean, obviously Mike and Randy played on it. I think the main difference, I played a few spots on it, a couple songs, kind of basic, just rhythm guitar things, some fast parts that he needed throughout, and then one big solo at the end, which was a lot of fun to do. I think the main difference with this would be, I don't know if I think Bill would be on it, I would assume. I haven't heard. But anyway, the main difference for me would be that we didn't write it together, and this is, all Neil, and basically we just played on it like a hired studio musician. But yeah, so for me that would be the difference. So it's not a Neil Morse Band album. How do you see your musical future? Would you consider joining a bigger, better known band as a guitarist, drummer, keyboard player, or singer? How do I see my musical future? I don't know. It's kind of a monthly. It could change by the week or month, I guess. But I mean, I'm lucky enough that I'm kind of. I mean, I wouldn't have dreamed I would be, doing what I'm doing now. So I'm very happy with what I am doing. As far as playing with any bigger band, I don't know. It would really it would depend a lot. I like having the freedom to do whatever I want to do and how I want to do it. I don't think I would just jump on with a big band and just be a guitar player or something like that. There are some interesting, fun things in the works that hopefully we'll start talking about in the future. But yeah, there's a new project in the works, and I'm really excited about it. We've started doing some preliminary demos and stuff like that. So hopefully I can share more on that in the future. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm also getting into music licensing quite a bit, which, if you're not familiar, which is basically like music that gets placed in TV or film, or at this point, anything streaming or all of that. So I've been writing music kind of geared towards that, some of which I've released personally, like my Winter Solstice or A New Day. A New Day started a long time ago, though. That was just music I had in my head that I wanted to get out, and was writing it kind of while on the road, and finally finished it up and released it. But yeah, so I don't know. I see myself doing what I'm already doing, and continuing to do new and more projects, and music licensing and composing, and a lot of fun things in the works. So yeah, I'm blessed and happy to be doing what I'm doing, and hope to keep it going. Guy asked, does Neil not like the in-ear because he's already wired with the remote microphone? I don't know. That's a good point, though. He already has a lot of stuff on him, and in these past couple tours with all the costumes and stuff, he's always back there changing, and it's always getting caught on his microphone that he wears and all that. So that would be one more thing to add. But I think mainly he's done it for so long that he's just kind of, he likes what he likes, and he likes to be in the room, is what he always says, to feel the room, which there's a good point to that. Even if you use what we use, which are crowd mics, so there'll be mics on both sides of the stage pointing out towards the crowd, and then those will be panned in our ears, and we can have them as loud as we want to kind of give us that feeling of the room. It's not quite the same as just being in the room completely with no earbuds in, but like I said, there's pros and cons to everything, and I just I feel like I sing better when I use in-ears because I can have my voice super loud and right here. I also feel like it saves my voice. When I use wedges, sometimes the drums are super loud, and everyone's fighting to be the loudest so they can hear themselves through their wedge, and then you're having to sing over that. It makes my voice hurt right now trying to think about that. But I honestly feel like it's saved my voice on tour, along with just getting a lot of a lot of rest, a lot of sleep. Jubal says podcast interview style thing with NMB members. Maybe that would be cool. That would be fun. I have thought about maybe a sort of podcast sort of thing, or maybe I could just keep it on this format and just have people join in. But yeah, just talking with other people in the industry and in other bands, and just kind of just keep a dialogue going and hearing from you guys on what stuff you might want to know about and talking about it. Hi, Eric. Greetings from Italy. Hello. I love Italy. We miss it. Been quite a few times, even not on tour. And it's one of me and my wife's favorite places to go. We love London as well. But yes, we've been to Milan and Florence and Venice, Rome. We love it all. We love the food. Love the wine. It's what a great place. Sorry, I got sidetracked by the greatness of Italy. I have a question about songwriting, if I may. How do you approach songwriting? Sorry about that. How do you approach songwriting? Where do you take your ideas from, and how do you develop them into songs? That's kind of always changing, I feel like. Hey, John, how's it going? Yeah, it's my first one, so hopefully it's going all right. Getting got my training wheels on. As far as songwriting, man, it changes a lot, and I think with every song it's different. There's some songs and bits that come to me almost in their entirety, which is strange, but and another cool kind of fascinating thing about music is how music can come to you in your sleep. And that happened with Bill on the second time I can't remember the name of this album, Similitude. Bill's dream theme was one of the themes that came to him while we were there, and he just showed up and had it in its entirety ready to go, which is super awesome, and it's hard to wrap my brain around that, but that does happen to me sometimes. While I'll have a full melody, I'll just kind of wake up with it and luckily remember it and try to get it into my phone as quick as possible or get to the studio as quick as I can. And then sometimes there's things I really have to work that's maybe just a little bit, just a little riff. I think the hardest part can be connecting ideas, which is something Mike's really awesome at, because we'll all have these little bits, maybe in even different keys, different tempos, blah, blah, blah. And he'll get them on his whiteboard, and he'll just kind of, like a Tetris game, he'll have the vision, which is something that's very cool and very cool to watch and try to soak up as much as I can. But yeah, I would say, if you have a riff and a chorus idea and a verse idea and this other thing, sometimes they're not all entwined yet, and trying to figure out how to make those work. Maybe even saying, I'll take that chorus and I'll move it to a different key or whatever to make them all work together. I think that can be the hardest part, because sometimes I'll demo something and it'll just sound like a bunch of different sections pieced together, and kind of having to massage that and figure out how to make that really work together. But I do a lot of my writing, even for guitar-based songs, I do on the piano or keyboard or whatever. And sometimes, even with riffs, I'll write a riff on the keyboard and get it into the computer real quick, and then I'll figure out how to play it on guitar. Because usually it just comes to me in my head as a nugget of an idea. Neil says, I was privileged to see Shattered Fortress in London, first show. Yeah, I remember that. That was a good one. I guess you already had basic knowledge of the songs. How long did you practice for a tour? Ha, good question. Basic knowledge, I guess that would be a good term. The way I say it is, I knew the songs, and by say I knew them in my head. I knew the arrangements. I could air drum all the parts. However, I could not play all the stuff. There were bits and pieces, maybe of overture, stuff like that I would say partially knew from when I was 16 or 18 or whatever. But yeah, there was a lot of practicing involved. Luckily, we knew about it pretty far in advance, although lots of things got added and changed as we went along. But luckily, I had a lot of time to kind of sit with it and digest it all. And I don't remember exactly. It was a lot of months, luckily, that we had to cram all that. Which, for a gig like that, I don't know if you're ever if someone said you have a whole year to practice, I think that you would still probably kind of freak out a little bit because it is a lot, and it's, you know, one of the greatest guitar players walking this earth that you have to play their parts. So there's going to be a lot that comes along with that, and a lot of expectation, which is good because with great expectation, it kind of makes you rise to the occasion or fail miserably. So it's going to be one or the other. But it was a lot of practice. I really enjoyed it. It made me a better player for sure, because when you're forced to have to learn something, not forced is the wrong word. When you agree to learn something and then at that point you're committed to learning it, there's kind of you kind of just understand, okay, well, I have to do this. You can't just quit halfway through the end part of this dying soul and say it's too hard. But it was very, very challenging and very rewarding, and what a fun tour and group of guys, and something I'm very fond of. And actually, someone on tour gave us these really awesome, I don't know if you guys can see that, Shadow Fortress book with all these amazing pictures on a glossy print. Oh, it also has the Neil Morse band in there. Very cool. Cheers from Spain. All right, hey, how's it going? Is it a good idea to record and edit drums directly into a DAW instead of live mics? I'm not sure I understand exactly. What I do is I record everything individually as much as I can, like overheads, hi-hats, toms, snare bottom, snare top, kick. I had a additional kick mic where I compressed it very hard, and then I have room mics, and then I basically, you know, the more mics you have, the more options you have down the road, it seems like. And then I do all the editing and stuff in afterwards when I'm mixing. So I don't know if that helps or if I answered your question, but how has becoming a father changed your outlook on music? Yeah. I think it just puts everything into perspective. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but I don't know how to say it. I mean, it's just music is kind of what I think now. I love music, but you know, I think my family, my daughter, and that matters a lot more than music. So I love getting to do this, but you know, my family is the first thing in my life, and music does matter, but it's not the number one thing. So it's put a lot of stuff in perspective, and she's adorable, and she gets whatever she wants from me. I hope Mike gave you a copy of the concert. You know, I don't know if I have the whole thing. I'm sure I could get it. I hope. Just to have as a memory would be fantastic. But yeah, what a great show that was in Tilburg. Every show is great in Tilburg. Colorado Springs. Hey, how's it going? Cool idea, live stream. Thanks. Hoping to do more of it. So, like I was telling people earlier, if there's anything you want to know more about or see or anything like that, drop it in the comments, and I'll try to get to it. Greetings from Milwaukee. How's it going? Saw you with NMB twice in Chicago. Any advice looking for quality drum samples on a very limited budget? Depends on how limited. I don't think drum samples are that expensive most of the time. I guess it depends. What I use I use a couple different things, but I use Steven Slate Trigger to basically you can drop that on an audio track and you kind of can set the sensitivity and the detail, blah, 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 and you can load in samples. There's a sub sample, a direct, kind of an overhead, and I have them blended here, kind of lower, a little bit of a room sample, and then you can blend those in. But these are, I don't remember. I think these are samples from Slate. I also have GGD drums, which is from Nolly from Periphery, if you know of him. He's a bass player, engineer, mixing guru. His samples that they've put together are killer, and so I've started using those. They also come as a playable instrument, which you can get. I think Steven Slate drums is like a playable instrument if you wanted to like program drums, or if you have an electronic kit and you want to play something in and use real drum samples, or they can load into Trigger as well. So I kind of use a mix of all of those at this point, and I don't think they're that crazy expensive. They have a bunch of different packs. I think I got Trigger on sale. If you kind of, I try to watch anything I'm interested in, I keep an eye on it. Most everything will go on sale at some point. I know GGD was running a 33% off code. I don't know if that's still going, but you might look into that. They have expansion packs for Trigger, so I have the CLA samples as well, which are Chris Lord Algae, if you're familiar. And he's got a lot of cool, there's some really cool snare samples in there. I mean, between all these, you can pretty much get any sound, or you help supplement any sound. There's lots of ringy ones, dry ones, high-pitched, low-pitched. So yeah, I suggest Steven Slate, GGD drums, or GGD. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Hopefully that answers your question. I think the hardest thing for me when I work is to remember not to slouch, which I'm awful at, so. All right, let's check this. Oops. Way far back. Almost to the end here. Coming up on the key solo section. It's like watching paint dry, I'm sure. Almost to the end here. Okay, sorry, Eric. I mean digital MIDI drums instead of real drums. What do you prefer? I prefer real drums. I have a project I'm doing now where he sent me MIDI files, and then I'm using my own drum samples with the MIDI data that he sent me, which I've actually got a good result with, I feel like. But then also he's hired Marco Miniman on one song, so I'm actually using real drums on the next one, which is cool. But yes, I prefer real drums if possible. Let's say less than 100 for, I think he's talking about the samples. I think everything is going to be around 100 or less, or I can't remember how much trigger is for. I would go check the website, but like I said, I would keep an eye on those things and see if they're on sale. If they're not, I would wait, and eventually they'll go on sale. I know suspended animation had an influence on you. Did you see the announcement? Yes, I did. Petrucci's new solo album. That's going to be cool. It's been a while. What was it, 2003 or something? It's been a while for him. I mean, he's been a little busy, I think. But, yeah, that's exciting. Very cool. Can't wait to hear it. Eric, what sounds right now are real drums or digital drums? They're all real. I mean, technically, everything you're hearing is real because I do have a couple samples just on the kick and the snare. But technically, those are real live drums that were sampled and recorded, and I'm just playing back those samples. So technically, everything's real. But yeah, so all of the stuff you're hearing is my kit that I recorded in my drum room, just layered in with a little bit of kick and snare sample. And again, this is not mixed. I'm editing to get it ready to start mixing, which we're starting on Monday. We got a week-long mix session. Trying to wrap this Blood of Kings album up. We are super close. We've been working on this for quite a while. Larry's from the Chicago area. And I think that's right. But so yeah, trying to schedule and get him down here and coordinate with what I got going on, and it can be challenging, but this should be our last session and wrap this album up. So let me fade these and check it out. Oh, that's the last hit. Awesome. There we go. Just said a new word there. Awesome. Sweet. So let me back this up. Yeah, so again, this is not mixed. It's kind of got a rough thing dialed in here, but I'll play a little bit of it. I'll play a little bit of it while I maybe answer a few more questions and wrap this up, and hopefully do this again soon. Thank you guys for jumping on with me. Let's see here. Right. All right, as NMB repertoire expands, how do you choose the set list? Alive Again is one of my favorite tracks. I recall MP saying in an interview that would be in the set list for the next tour. Oh, I don't remember him saying that. Interesting, cool. I'm not sure. It's again, with the length of some songs, it's tough in our band to piece together a set. And it's going to be weird because our last two tours have been playing two albums in their entirety, which I'm kind of got used to. So it will be interesting. It all depends on what we write as well, because when we tour, we're gonna want to feature a lot of what we write. So Are you mixing stuff right now? No, I'm just editing drums. We'll be mixing on Monday. But in the future, maybe I have a couple other projects I'm working on, so maybe I can do some live streaming of mixing if that's something y'all are interested in. Again, I said it earlier. If you're interested in hearing anything or seeing anything, let me know and I'll try to work it into these live streams. A difficult one. Who's your favorite drummer? Mike. Yeah, very cool to have him as a friend, but definitely one of my favorite drummers of all time. And I just rip off all of his drumming in my own drumming. What time zone? I'm in Central. Yeah, I don't know what would be a good time to do these either. I just kind of jumped on because I had some time. I know your wife gifted you the Luke Music Man guitar. How's that? Any plans on getting a new JP15 or newer Majesty? No plans yet, although I don't rule out a new guitar ever. But yes, that was an amazing gift from her, and she completely surprised me at one of our baby showers, and I had no idea, and it was amazing, and I love playing that guitar. I don't know if I can reach it. Maybe I can. And here it is. A beautiful blueberry burst, I believe. Rusted maple neck. It's a beautiful guitar. It's got a 20 dB gain boost when you hit that. The split position is incredible. I love this guitar, and one of the best gifts I've ever got. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining me on this, and reach out to me if you have anything you want to check out or have me do on these live streams. Hope to keep them going, and thanks again for joining in. I appreciate it. You guys have a good one. See if I can figure out how to end this thing.